My wife and I live in a different state to my family. However, we often travel back to my home state for special family occasions, birthdays and Christmas for example. My wife is a 22-year military veteran, and when she discharged it was medically. She has been diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety and depression, and has spent several stints in psychiatric hospital, one for 4 months. She was prescribed an assistance service dog who we have trained up under the supervision of a registered organization, and she, we'll call her Daisy, is formally qualified and papered. She goes pretty much wherever we go, including interstate flying in the cabin of the plane, with my wife in an ambulance to hospital, and also was interned with her at psychiatric units. My family are all aware of this and mostly supportive. However, the last time we visited for my niece's 21st birthday, I was questioned by both my sister and my niece about whether Daisy was accompanying my wife to the party, which I responded that she was, as my wife really struggles in loud crowded environments. There was about 80 people and loud music together in one room. My niece suggested several reasons why Daisy shouldn't go: loud music, balloons, lots of people. Which I assured her Daisy was fine with, and they already know this, being very familiar with Daisy's very calm temperament. My sister then spoke to me after my niece and also said similar things, not outright saying, but heavily suggesting it would be better if Daisy didn't attend. I just said if my wife feels she needs her, she will be attending. Sometimes my wife has been able to do small things without her, but never big events like parties, even shopping centers and restaurants. Daisy comes with her. Anyway, the party came and went. My wife had to take 4 Valium to cope, but managed to sit through the evening with Daisy by her side at our feet at a table. Other people throughout the evening went over to talk to her, and most didn't even notice Daisy was there. For myself, I'm used to my wife's conditions and knew that although she was struggling, she was coping and even enjoying talking to people at times. I danced the night away, periodically sitting down beside my wife and checking in. After the party was over, we had a few days at my sister's house where the topic of her son's impending wedding came up. Again, I was asked by my sister if my wife would be taking Daisy. I again said yes, more than likely, for the same reasons as the 21. Lots of people, loud noises, crowded environment. Again, it was inferred that the event wouldn't be suitable for Daisy. The tables were really crowded, lots of people, plus my sister suggested that if my wife didn't have Daisy she would be able to get up and dance. Before my wife had her breakdown, she was not a dancer, and now with her anxiety, there's no way she'd be comfortable out on a dance floor. I was so taken aback I didn't know how to respond. My wife heard my sister talking to me, and so she suggested she only go to the ceremony and skip the reception to avoid my sister getting stressed out about her dog. My sister snapped they are at the same venue. Then softened it with, of course we want you to come. Both my wife and I felt very uncomfortable and kept reassuring my sister Daisy would be fine, as she has been taught to sit under my wife's chair out of the way. It felt like the concerns raised weren't genuine concerns but just a way to feel like Daisy was unwelcome. We flew back home not long after, and this is where I may be TA. We woke up the next morning and the first words out of my wife's mouth were maybe and should just stay home for the wedding and you go by yourself so I don't stress your sister out by taking Daisy. I felt so bad for her. It's taken such a long time for her to feel comfortable in going out in public, and Daisy has been instrumental in that, and now my family were making her feel like she wasn't welcome with her assistance dog. I reassured her, but later in the day I rang my sister and told her what my wife had said, and that perhaps more care could be taken to make sure my wife wasn't left feeling that her conditions were not considered. I told her my wife had said perhaps she shouldn't go to avoid stressing her out, and my sister just said yes, and? To which I replied that she had been prescribed a dog for a reason, and without her dog my wife would likely not go anywhere, like she used to. My wife said well, she was better last time she was down, she didn't take her everywhere. I explained that mental health goes up and down. Last time she was doing a bit better, however she'd just been sick and was put on medication that messed with her regular meds, and so was only just coming out of that. Also, I reminded my sister the last time we didn't really go out apart from to a restaurant, to which Daisy also came. I just feel like I'm constantly trying to prove my wife's medical conditions. Even her PTSD has been questioned, as my sister's words, she didn't go to Afghanistan. She even had her best friend question me about it. I'm tempted to tell them some of my wife's horror stories, but I just keep it general so they don't get secondhand trauma. My sister also said that she had to think about other people, and I said why? Does someone have a problem with Daisy attending? And she said her son, my nephew, and his future wife had spoken to her about it. I said well, I'll ring them then, which she hastily replied, no you can't, they spoke to me in confidence. I said I just don't understand what you're trying to achieve, and she said it's not just about you, I have to think of other people. I said well, you wouldn't be asking Nana if she was bring her wheelie walker, and she said actually Nana might be in a wheelchair so I'll have to put her at the end of the table, to which I snapped and said, yes, but you wouldn't tell her she's not allowed to bring her wheelchair. And she replied, I didn't say you couldn't bring Daisy. I said back that it was disingenuous to pretend that your questions aren't designed to make us feel like she shouldn't be coming. To which she replied that she couldn't handle this stress I was causing her, and she said goodbye and hung up. So Ada for calling my sister out on all her questions regarding my wife's assistance dog? Am I too sensitive, like my sister said? Update 1. Firstly, a few clarifications. 1. I am a woman, it's a same-sex marriage so I'm not her husband but her wife. 2. Her Valium is only 2 milligrams. She took 4 that night, which is 8 milligrams, which means she was nowhere near whacked out of mind like some suggested. She has 5 milligrams tablets as well, but prefers to titrate the dose herself in 2 milligrams increments for precisely that reason. 3. Yes, I was up dancing the night away, and this does not make me a monster. We rarely go out, and when we do, my wife loves seeing me enjoy myself and letting my hair down, as much of my life is in service to her and her conditions. She gets enjoyment from me having fun too. Plus the dance floor was like 3 meters from where she was sitting and I could see her watching me and smiling. 4. Please refrain from calling my sister nasty names. Yes, she is out of line here, but she, and her kids, are my only immediate family and are very important to me. Going NC would hurt me as much as her. Anyway, for the update. I rang my nephew and asked him if he and his bride had a problem with Daisy accompanying my wife to their wedding, as my sister was suggesting they did. I said that while my sister hadn't directly said Daisy couldn't go, it was being heavily implied that she wasn't welcome. My nephew seemed kind of confused initially and didn't really answer the question other than to say he hadn't really thought about it. I wondered then if he was being cagey, so I asked him for his total honesty, and he said that when he spoke to his mom. Then he stopped and said, actually, Mom spoke to me. He also told her he hadn't thought about it. He then said he hadn't even asked his fiancée yet. I told him my anxiety was really high over this and I just needed to know how he felt, and he said, I guess I just assumed Daisy would be going with your wife, as they're kind of a package deal. I got quite emotional hearing this, and he told me not to worry, that everything must have been blown out of proportion, and so long as my wife was okay. He's always been a really caring kid, which is why I had my suspicions that my sister wasn't being totally honest. Anyway, we chatted some more. He told me to stop crying, otherwise he'd cry at work and all his mates would laugh at him, which made me laugh. He said he'd ring his mom, so I guess shit is going to hit the fan. I have several stress-related conditions because of what I've been through keeping my wife alive, so I really struggle these days with anxiety. I have Minoka and have had a heart attack in the past from stress, to Castubo. I've been having really bad chest pain from this and stomach upset, so although I was tempted to tell my nephew not to call his mom, I need a resolution one way or another. The limbo is too difficult to manage. Let's go to the next story. Am I overreacting for wanting to end a friendship because they body shamed my child? I, 27F, was at a friend's house last night with a group of friends of over a decade. I had a kid when I was on the younger side, and I am a single mother, so I'm the only one of my friend group with a child besides my older sister, who was also there. My son, we'll call him Adam, is 7, and I'll be fully transparent, he's a chubby kid. My ethnic background results in my build being fairly tall for a woman, and I've always been on the thicker side with plenty of muscle. However, since having a child, the pandemic, and working from home, again I'll be transparent, I've gained a little more weight than usual as well. My son's biological father also has an ethnic background that is known for being thicker built. As a result, my son has had a larger build since birth, even when he was skinnier. I hate referencing my son's body like this. He always had thick legs, arms, and always felt heavier than he looked. Now back to the story. Last night one of my closest friends out of this group sort of came out of nowhere with a comment saying, walking is very important, we should all get to walking more, especially Op and Adam. I sort of shot him a look because it felt out of nowhere. But I didn't say anything because honestly he's right, walking is good for you after all. He then continued and said, okay listen I'm gonna just say it, Adam is too big and you guys need to lose some weight ASAP. This completely took me back and I said immediately, you can't just say something like that. He half apologized while laughing and continued to talk about how he's not in sports and that I clearly don't motivate him to do anything, I guess because I'm also chubby. He was laughing hysterically and making fun of how my son looked and his body, and it just felt so horrible. He then went on to say that he would do better as a mentor for my son. Trying to curve the conversation in a positive way, I said, you know what, that would be helpful actually. I'm a single mom and it is difficult to always get him to sports or get out and going, and I would definitely like to work out more and get into shape. Why don't we do something all together? He then started going on about how much better he's gonna do and how Adam needs to stop being lazy and he needs real guidance. Now, I'm not going to list excuses or deep dive into the stuff we've been through in the past few years, but I will say it's been a lot. What I will say though is this friend and L are close, but I've lived in a different state for several years and he definitely doesn't know enough about our home life to have made those comments. I have played women's professional football for 2 years and my son was also in football, soccer, and we go on walks daily with our dog. A recent traumatic event left me severely injured and resulted in my son being traumatized as well. He now has severe separation anxiety and we only just now worked up to me being able to leave for the store around the corner while he's with my mom, sister, nephew, and stepdad. My son also has a lot of sensory issues and a phobia of bugs. I wish I was kidding. It's gotten so bad that it's hard now to take him to outside events without complete meltdowns. And yes, we have been working on it, but it is difficult especially in the summer months. I have still found ways to get him into indoor sports and still get time in the sun at parks, zoos, and aquariums. I have made my best effort as a single parent and I will admit that I have failed. There's been times that we couldn't afford the healthy option. Or times I've worked 12-hour shifts and haven't been able to cook. I will take responsibility as a parent that my child has gotten chubbier, but why make fun of and comment on a child's weight? I would understand if he was severely overweight or obese and a doctor or family member had to step in and say something, but even then I don't feel like the way it was said was kind or constructive. It kind of felt like he was waiting for an opportunity to make fun of mine and my son's weight. And to outright say you could parent my child better is way over the line, especially as a childless male. I've talked to my sister and other family members about it. She was also uncomfortable with the comments. I think I'm going to talk to him because I do value our friendship, but would I be overreacting if I took a step back from our friendship entirely? First, thank you to everyone who showed me support. I honestly did not think I would get this many responses, but I appreciate all of the insight and kind comments. I don't have anything juicy to update unfortunately, other than that my friend has texted me since the incident, but only to invite me to a group event. I haven't responded yet, but I'm contemplating if I should talk to him there or bring it up over text/phone call. Either way, I will update you all once the conversation is had. For clarification, my son was not there when the comment were made. He will sometimes accompany me to event with this friend, but like I said, all of this friend group is child-free, so we usually are not doing child-friendly activities. When we have done child-centered activities together, he has never brought up anything negative to Adam and has always said kind things. My son does regularly visit the doctor and his weight has never been brought up as an issue. He has never been recommended any diets or weight loss by any pediatrician because he's 7 and still growing. I did get worried because of his comments that maybe I was blind to Adam's weight gain as his mother, but family and friends I've asked have confirmed, without bias, that he is a perfectly healthy boy. We do eat a generally healthy diet on a day-to-day basis. I do impress on him the importance of diet and exercise, and we have cut out fast food, save for emergencies and road trips. And he is signed up for a ton of summer camps and sports. That's another reason why his comments felt strange, because he is aware of how much effort I am putting into making sure he is more active since the incident that threw our life out of whack. Adam has only been out of sports for 4 months and hasn't been signed up since due to us moving and his separation anxiety, but he was a very active kid before everything that happened. I cut out some dialogue for length purposes, but I absolutely said more to him to shut down the conversation. I said multiple times to drop it and called him an asshole by the end. He didn't take any of it seriously and sort of rolled his eyes at my attempts to call him out for being a jerk. I shouldn't have just let it go, but I felt like I wasn't going to be heard one way or another. There were some drinks had by him earlier in the night. I see a lot of comments mentioning that he might be interested in me. My friend is gay, so it is strictly platonic. I don't think he's negging me to be with me unless he's some sort of LGBT double agent. Update 1. All of your insight definitely helped me in my decision to not remain friends with this person. However, in light of recent events, it seems I wouldn't have had to anyways. So on to the update. I mentioned in my original post that everything this friend said about my child was said in a room full of our mutual friends. Well, not too long ago we all attended a gay pride event together and ended up all hanging out. I left early, mom duties, but they all continued to hang out and drink. Apparently after I left, the friend who insulted my kid, Jerry, and our other mutual friend, Kyle, who owned the apartment, got into an argument that grew into a physical fight. Jerry got extremely violent and ended up biting through Kyle's finger and punching his girlfriend in the face when she tried to intervene. He also broke over $1,000 worth of things in their apartment, and from what I heard, the entire place was covered in blood. The next morning I get a call from Jerry and he tells me his version of what happened. He was drunk. He blacked out. He had no clue until the next morning. It wasn't that bad. I then spoke with Kyle and his girlfriend and got the full version of the night's events that I detailed above. They also spoke with me about how disappointing and uncomfortable his comments about my son Adam made them, as they all know and love my son and know he is well taken care of. Long story short, we have all decided to end our respective friendships with Jerry. His use of manipulation, the blatant lying, and his strange and rude comments have all come to the surface, and as sad as we all are to be losing a friend of over a decade, this has to happen. He is obviously not happy about it and has been contacting us all frequently, calling us assholes and saying we all abandoned him. Anyway, not the cheeriest of updates, but thank you all again for sticking it through. I'm glad I was able to make my decision to distance without also having to lose my other friends in the group, but I feel so horrible that they had to go through that. My gripe with Jerry seems so small now compared to what happened. It seems to have really traumatized Kyle and his girlfriend.